I fired an employee for slacking after his parents died. Story: I'm the VP of sales at a software company, and one of our sales development reps' parents passed away at the beginning of April. Sadly, they were involved in a car crash and both lost their lives. Now the employee in question is a very young 22-year-old guy and has been with us for about 10 months now. He's a great employee, and we were thinking about promotions in the next 6 months for him. His job is a high-paying one for a new grad, about $90K with commission and base, so we expect a lot from this position. Because of the accident, we let him take a 1-month paid leave of absence from work, and he's returned a few weeks ago, and his performance is severely lacking. He's super unmotivated, not cold calling, outreaching to prospects for the last 2 to 3 weeks. Enough since he's come back. Our whole MGMT team has noticed this, and we decided to let him go because we feel like he'd need months and months to be able to produce again, and we can't just wait that long. We called him into a meeting on Friday afternoon and gave him the bad news. He was very calm and rude about it. Told us to go F ourselves and got up and went to his desk, grabbed his few things and left. I thought this was very, very unprofessional and extremely rude. I told my boyfriend about all of this, and he said myself and my MGMT team are a bunch of asses and pricks with no hearts. Am I the a-hole? Holy F, this blew up. I know this was crappy of me now, and I reached out to him to see how he's holding up. He's staying at his girlfriend's place, and she's supporting him a lot right now. I offered to get my headhunter friend in touch with him when he's ready, and he accepted. Response 1. YTA for firing him without first going through the steps of describing his issues to him and giving him a chance to improve. He's been back for only 2 to 3 weeks. It's not about having heart, it's about making a dumb business decision for both you and him. So much smarter to work with this guy to get him back on track after a temporary setback than to push the eject button and have to find and start over with a new person. Dumb. Reply 1. Seriously, WTAF. It's been a couple weeks and you all decide to fire him with no warning, no PAP, nothing? Not only are you an a-hole, but so is everyone else who was involved in this decision. Reply 2. I honestly am hoping this is a car post. Geez, what a bunch of a-holes. OP even says that he was a really great employee before the accident. At the very least, they could have given him a couple of weeks to improve. Reply 3. The guy lost both parents tragically. There's no way he's going to be back to normal in just a few months. Did a cyborg write this post? Reply 4. And firing someone out of the blue without coaching them, letting them know there's a problem, and establishing a paper trail is bad business. Hope OP enjoys paying into unemployment because the employee will mostly qualify for it. You're the a-hole, OP. Reply 5. Welcome to capitalism. This carp stain OP embodies it perfectly. The weak are meat and the strong do eat. Response 2. YTA. Generally, people receive a warning about their performance before they get fired. You gave him bereavement leave and then fired him immediately after because he wasn't performing. Reply 1. Yeah, something similar happened to me with an injury. I took some time off and they fired me almost immediately after my return because I wasn't performing to standards. Like, what the hell? If someone takes time off, it's for a reason, and coming back will take anyone some time to adjust. This poor dude was probably still swamped in emails and voicemails and this unable to show enthusiasm and make cold calls. FOP, such a ducking a-hole and a very bad manager. Reply 2. Seriously, industrious and stupid are the worst combination. You said this young guy showed promise over the past 10 months and less than 1 month of him underperforming after a tragedy is grounds for firing? Get bent. What about those prior 10 months? Did they even come to your mind? Jesus, you'll fire all your good workers and be left with the dumbest group of sycophants managing that way. My team is awesome, but they are all less than 1 year hired, because the previous manager was a twat and drove everyone to better managed companies, and the same will happen to yours. Workers are still people and not your property. You made his life so much harder, on top of the lose of family, because he went from $90K to 0 while dealing with depression. I hope he is okay. You effed up hard. Edit. Banned from this subreddit for this comment and muted by mods. LMAO. This place is actually the worst subreddit on the site, reply 3, and be left with the dumbest group of sycophants managing that way. Let's be honest, since all the management agreed on this, they're already at that point. Reply 4. I got hurt on the job a few years ago. Manual labor. Got 13 stitches on my dominant hand near the base of my palm/thumb. I couldn't hardly use my hand. The doc told me 3 days and I could go back to work. My company said that the doc's word was God and I should be perfectly fine. My wound got infected because of how they pushed me, and I had to quit. They acted like I was the bad guy the entire time. Some companies are just bullcarp. It took my hand 3 months to be in a usable state, and over a year to be almost normal. Reply 5. I had that happen, had a surgery, and had time off, then could only go back part-time, and I was limited to what I could do as it was my right shoulder. Broken collarbone got reattached with cadaver bone, and I'm dominantly right-handed, so I could only do so much. Then about maybe a month after I came back, they let me go because I was taking too much time off. What the hell? They knew about the surgery, the whole thing, and were supportive through all of it. A-holes. Response 3. Yup, congrats. You're the a-hole. If this isn't a car post well done, you pulled a poor mourning kid's remaining stability and livelihood out from under him. 4 weeks after his parents passed away. Hope the rest of the team's morale stays high after this one. Reply 1. Not in that she has the audacity to say he was rude and unprofessional for telling them to F off after his firing. Reply 2. What's effed up is he now has to explain his firing to any future employers. You know how awkward it is to bring up some carp like that without looking bad for bad-mouthing a previous employer? What about not bringing it up at all? That doesn't work too well either. It's sketchy to be fired and not have an explanation. I had to quit a job because they were giving me a very hard time about working remotely while my uncle was in hospice for all of 2 weeks before he died, so I could support my aunt and cousins with various chores and errands and make their lives easier. I tried not talking about that with potential employers, never broached why I left. I was unemployed for a year before I gave up and tried being completely forthcoming about why I left during interviews. I don't know if it helped or made it worse, but I do know that there is no easy way to handle situations like that. Reply 3. That's a very good additional point you've made there. If I knew this guy in work, saw all that he'd been through, and then saw the company pulling his livelihood out from beneath his feet after 2 to 3 weeks back, I'd be polishing my resume and looking for somewhere new to work, as the company views are clearly out of whack. Reply 4. Earlier this year, I got hurt pretty bad at work. Not anything super serious, but enough to go to the ER, and due to my job, I needed a lot of time to heal, think 2+ months. Luckily, I was able to use workers' comp the whole time, so my household didn't struggle as much it could have. Upon returning to work, I hear they have completely gotten rid of workers' comp. My boss has been asking about my performance as well. Just thinking about people like OP that don't actively work on a problem only cause more problems. It was a huge shock to my psyche after a small accident. I can't imagine losing my parents and then giving a carp about my work. Reply 5. What irritates me is that he even claims that this kid was a good employee and that they were thinking about promotions in the next 6 months. The kid's poor performance is obviously due to him being in mourning. Response 4. YTA. Without a doubt. You gave him 2 to 3 weeks after he came back before you fired him? That's not enough time to start underperforming and be fired for someone who didn't experience such a tragedy. If you really cared or were a decent company, you'd find him a mentor, maybe start pulling him aside and coaching him, find ways to bring up the problems but making it work for you both for at least a couple months. Wow. Reply 1. That's not enough time to start underperforming and be fired for someone who didn't experience such a tragedy. Seriously, who hasn't had a bad week here or there? We'd all be effed under these circumstances. Reply 2. Yeah, I like how she mentioned how unprofessional it was for him to tell them to F off, like he owes them any professionalism after what they did to him. Response 5. This is a BS story. Point 1. You're the VP of sales and are firing inside sales reps? Huh. Okay. 2. You gave him a month paid leave? Your company is so small you personally fired him, but large enough it can pay a full month of leave? Even large companies don't offer that. 3. Almost all sales organization will have a performance improvement plan, PIP. You put underperforming sales employees on a PIP, which includes clear measurement for improvement. If they don't improve within the time period allotted, then you fire them. Who's ever heard of a few weeks lackluster performance equals firing? This story is garbage or your company sucks. Reply 1. You're the VP of sales and are firing inside sales reps? That part isn't necessarily unreasonable. My first job was at a company of 80 people, and a lot of non-management employees reported directly to a VP, of which there were a few. Reply 2. Yeah, but did they give anyone a full month of bereavement as well? That's not something most companies of 80 people can afford. Reply 3. Not true at all. A lot of these smaller companies are highly profitable, usually with a single wealthy owner. They don't have the same P&L discipline or policies of larger corporations. The 50-employee company I worked for before business school, as a sales guy, absolutely would have given me a month of paid time in this circumstance. If I had come back underperforming, they would have worked with me, potentially either having the other 7 sales guys or the apps engineer pick up my slack. Oh, and I did report directly to the VP of sales. Organizations this small are usually pretty flat. Reply 4. She said he makes $90K base commission, and he was a good salesman. I'm guessing his base was closer to $30-35K without commission and bonuses. They paid him a month of his base salary for leave. Reply 5. Yeah, all 3 points here are maybe. Lots of times a company of 500 plus people will have a sales staff of 10 or 20 people, and this crew is run directly by a sales VP because it's so important. And you don't want layers of middle management between executive decisions and sales team actions. It can go like you said or not, but this stuff isn't clear evidence of BS at least. Response 6. You are absolutely the a-hole. 100%, you're the a-hole. Death is incredibly serious and takes time to heal from. He is a human being. I am so appalled that you made the decision to do that. The stress of losing people you hold close is completely unimaginable. I can't even begin to understand how much worse that gets after you lose your income directly after. Seriously, I am just so disgusted with this action, especially considering he was a great employee who you seem to feel had room to grow with the company. Reply 1. I am as disgusted as you are by these people's actions. Even more so, since they don't even see what they did was wrong and need us all to say it before they even understand. OP and Co. sound like some really carpty people to me. Response 7. YTA. There were better options than just straight up firing him. Maybe have a meeting about his job performance? See if he needs counseling? This dude is clearly in the depths of despair. Firing him was immature. Response 8. YTA. I've been a manager for a fair while, and this is a horrid way of dealing with it. I'd be surprised if he doesn't take your company to an ombudsman for an unfair dismissal. Where was the caution, warnings, written letters? Hopefully he'll have your company and you over a barrel. Edit, tie for the silver. And holy carp, who knew the States was so backwards that you can't take your employer to court for an unfair dismissal? Glad I don't live there. Reply 1. I haven't heard the word ombudsman in a while. If this is in America, you can get fired for anything except race, sex, religion, and disability, and there's no protection. Reply 2. The employee will definitely get unemployment and possibly be able to make an FMLA/ADA claim because the managers didn't bother to go through a formal process documenting the performance problems and giving the employee a chance to improve. Very stupid move on the part of management. Response 9. YTA. You didn't even give him a few weeks slack after he lost not one, but both of his parents. Instead of firing him, you could have made a plan to help him get back on track. Show him you cared, which you obviously don't, but still. Yeah, major dick move. Response 10. Damn, you're 100% a giant stinky a-hole for this. My best friend lost both of his parents in a similar fashion, and his employer was phenomenal about easing him back into the role, providing feedback and supporting him along the way as he acclimated. Most importantly, they didn't abandon him, and he now speaks candidly about how having a job and purpose kept him engaged and provided him with a reason to go on and not take his own life too. And what'd y'all do? Sure, you have him a month of bereavement and then treated him like every other normal employee upon his return. Can you practice a little empathy here? If both your parents passed away in your early 20s, would a month be sufficient for your grieving? Maybe you're some sort of advanced human. This happens to my friend at age 29 in 2016, and he still lives his life one day at a time. This is an excellent case of when you, as a manager, should have practiced equity over equality. Holding him to the standard of non-grieving employees is bananas. Y'all are wildin'. And the guilt that's gnawing away at your conscience? Well deserved. Reply 1. You should edit to include your judgment of or. You're the a-hole, so we can make sure everyone knows this user is an a-hole and should never be in charge of other people and should experience a loss and then lose their job because they can't bounce back to normal after a whole month. Jesus Christ, I still have crying fits over my mom who died almost 5 years ago. My job worked with me and supported me when my grandfather and then grandmother died. FOP, from the deepest parts of my heart, I wish tripled suffering on all who cause suffering. You're the a-hole OP. Your business consists of a-holes lording over employees. Response 11, YTA. Your employee needed more support and deserved an opportunity to improve. The employee should have been coached and offered mental health assistance. Edit. Double check to make sure. Both parents unexpectedly at the beginning of April, so at best 2 months ago. Absolutely awful thing you've done. Response 12, YTA. You expected him to be up and ready to work his ass off after only 1 month? He's 22 years old, man. He lost his parents. They won't be there for him for his promotion, wedding, children. He's trying to process all this, and you and those a-holes with no hearts decided that you can't wait for him to recover. Of course you're the a-hole. At least own up to it. Reply 1. This is what gets me the most, how young he is. He just barely stopped being a kid, and he lost both his parents. Then they had the audacity to fire him. Response 13, YTA. Or at least your company is. If he wasn't performing the last few weeks while he was performing very well before, even up for promotion, why let him go? Why not check in on him, discuss the issue, see if there's anything the company can do to get him back on track? Chances are you would have ended up with an excellent employee who's very happy at his job and will stay with the company that supported him. Of course, this can't go on forever, but immediately jump to firing the guy makes you a lousy employer. Reply 1. If she doesn't see a problem with it, I'd say she's a bigger A than the company. The company's a monolithic being whose only purpose is to make its owner rich. She's an actual person with agency and, in theory, emotions and empathy. Response 14, YTA. It is clear that he is suffering from depression over the lose of his parents, and instead of talking to him about it, you guys decided to just outright fire him. That was not something he needed at all. Response YTA. Is this even real? It's like a plot written for Cruella de Vil. If I was the business owner and read this, you'd be summarily fired. Response 6TA. You should have told him you would like him to quit so he can be rehired later when he's ready. Because he's 22 and lost his parents. How horrible. Last thing he needed was to be jobless on top of not having the support of his parents to fall back on. It is pretty heartless to fire him. I'd blow up too, and I don't do that. Response 17, YTA. You are a stupid, heartless a-hole. The guy's parents just died, he is obviously grieving, and your solution is to just can his ass? You and your management team sound toxic. I wouldn't treat a problem employee this way, let alone an otherwise good performer. Aside from the inhumanity of it, it creates a negative work environment that affects everyone's performance. An employee like this absolutely deserves an opportunity to address the performance issues before being dismissed. Or I'm going to go ahead and also say, go F yourselves. You are totally the a-hole. Edited for proper judgment. You're the a-hole. Response 19, YTA. He lost both of his parents unexpectedly. A month is really no time when you have to plan a funeral, have to deal with the estate, have to deal with the wills, have to deal with any police investigations. All that more than enough and then you expected him to grieve and be over it in time to give 100% at work? Then instead of giving him a review and asking how you can help him through this horrific time, you just fire him? Is your name the Tinman? Wow, wow, wow. You're the a-hole, like others. I don't understand how HR lets you fire someone with no performance eval or notice at all. I'm honestly kind of worried for that kid right now. A new grad, most likely heavy student loans, loses both parents and job. Doesn't seem like a recipe for great mental health.